Good evening and welcome to IITW Radio. Hello, Michelle and Jolie and everybody else. I'll get to the rest of you in a little bit. Tonight we have a special guest. Tonight's show is about Meet Your Politicians. In this case, one politician. It is, hello, Rita, Paul, Adamczyk.
Hey,
How you doing, Paul?
fantastic, Travis. How you doing this evening?
Oh, if I was any better, I'd be you, brother. So it is, let's see, what's the date today? 11/19. I've always got to say that so they can keep up with it. So how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, brother.
First of all, before we get started, there's a bad echo in here. I don't know what that is. Okay, is that better? Oh, yeah, I can hear it now. Okay, Jolie says good evening. Do you know Rita?
Oh, I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. Rita's watching you too, so.
I have my glasses off, so I actually can't see any of that.
Okay, I'd take mine off, but then we'd be totally screwed here. Anyway, so just so you guys and gals know, Paul, you're going to be running for county commissioner seat in what district?
District 5.
District 5. Okay, cool. There's your thing right there. And I've talked to Paul several times in the past. I like what he has to say. That's why I had him on tonight, because I want you guys and gals to hear. You know, we talk about making changes in government and stuff, and if you want to make a change, then what you need to do is you have a voice, and don't vote Republican or Democrat. I say this all the time on my shows. Vote the candidate. Get to know your candidate, and that's why we've got him on here tonight. Hello, James. James is one of. Have you ever met James Hoyt?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, James is. He is the man. You wouldn't need to go. If there's a fire around, I'm following this guy out. I have several times. So you're running for District
5.
5. Okay, I just want to make sure I get the district right. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you have 5 children.
Yep. We have 5 kids. I'm married to my wife. She's a wonderful lady, Sarah. We have 5 kids. My oldest is graduating from high school this year from Palatka High School, Hope. And then we have Grace is my second oldest. And then Paul, Jacob, and Grant. Jacob and Grant are twins. They were kind of unexpected and were a great blessing for us when they came along.
Okay. Before we go on, I want to thank you for your service. You were in the Navy, correct?
Yes, sir. Served from 1993 to 1997 as a fire controlman.
Oh, that's cool. Well, thank you for your service. So, biggest question people are going to ask, if you guys and gals have questions that you want to ask Paul, just write in. And if they're not stupid questions, we'll answer them. If they're stupid, I'm going to flush you. Do we have a thing that has a little button on it that we can do a toilet flush on?
We can in just 1 second.
James says he's voting for you. So there you got one vote.
Oh, thanks, James.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, why are you running for county for District 5?
So I'm running. I think that the people of our Putnam County deserve more representation and for their voices to be heard more. The public definitely needs to be more involved in our politics and in what happens here in our county. And the only way to get voices heard is to go out and receive those words from the people. It's really easy, I guess, to watch people and sit back and wait for people to come to you. I think it's up to us, our politicians, all of them, to get out to the public and get the word of what they want done, what they need done, back to us so that we can react and take care of things. We need to be a little more proactive in what we do. I mean, this thing's waiting for everything to break before you do anything about it. You should have a 3, 5, 10-year plan for budgeting, things like that, and basically be more aggressive about knowing what's coming down the road than just waiting for stuff to break and react.
Yeah. So, hello, Jackie. And who else do we have? Todd. Oh, man, Todd. Do you know Todd from Odd Todd's?
No, I've never met Todd.
Man, if you want to get a good burrito, he's right over in Salt Springs, right on the main drag there on 19. I think that's 19 that runs through there.
Yep, it is.
You can't miss it. It says tacos.
Yeah, it's on the right.
I had to bust his chops the other day when I was over there because his sign was pointing across to the forest. But don't turn into the forest. He's right there. Man, that guy's got some good food there. Anyways, he's probably one of the guys. But I don't know if it's Putnam County or not. I think Salt Springs is Marion.
Yeah, I think it's Marion.
Oh, man, there goes a lost vote. So what got you to thinking about, I mean, obviously, when I talked to you before, you said you didn't really, you weren't going to run, then you were going to run, and
For me, the decision to run came down mostly around prayer. I spent a lot of time in prayer when I was thinking about running, and when I felt like there was things that needed to be worked on. And it really took me about 7 months talking with my wife and praying to our good Lord to whether or not I wanted to run, and I felt it was the appropriate thing for me at the time. Once He gave me that answer, I decided to file and run. Basically, for the idea of representing our community back to the board and back to our county and making sure things get done and are prioritized in a manner that is what our county wants.
okay. Well, I have to remain neutral. I have to remain unbiased
Absolutely.
on everything. I don't endorse any certain candidate. The reason I've got you on here is to find out what changes and what things you're going to do
Sure.
that will, make our county better.
So one thing I think needs to be a priority is our fire service and rescue. We're losing employees regularly in the EMTs and EMSs. We need to be able to find a way to retain employees, not just all skilled employees in the county. We're running shorthanded. We need to find ways to keep them here, to bring people in here to fill those positions. And a lot of that comes down to pay. I understand that we did a 6% pay raise in this last budget. I just don't think on the lower end of the pay scale where we have these skilled employees that we're drawing in the right people at $10.60 an hour, with the pay raise. And that's after a 6% pay raise for some of these guys. And then some of the people not having a pay raise in 10 years, that just doesn't retain people in any business. And the county is a business. It's a $134 million budget business this year.
Now, here's a good question for you. And this comes from Todd over there. And you're going to get this question a lot. Hello, Doug. Doug Williams is one of my regulars. All these ones that are on here now. And
Doug,
if I don't mention you guys'
I know
names,
Doug well.
Do you?
Yeah.
If I don't mention your names as they're coming up, this thing is like a ticker tape. I have them slow it down, speed it up. So if you're a regular, it pops up more. So I don't know how that works. But the one big question that I have for you is, just put me up for a second, Chris. The one big question I have for you is that on the other side of Fort Gates Ferry Road, now, some of our politicians don't think that Fort Gates is that big a deal. On the other side of the river, which is still Putnam County, have you ever driven down the roads back there going into the forest?
Absolutely, yep.
Todd, right, is he going to get the ferry road graded on a regular basis?
I think that's between the state and the county, and I believe we have a contractor. We have access to do that is what's being established, and absolutely we need to maintain that. Once the ferry is up and running, we need to maintain passage through into the forest. I mean, that's the whole point of it. One of the first things we ever did when we moved down here about 6 years ago was we took a trip across on the ferry. I'm very disappointed. My kids loved it. Two of them weren't old enough at the time to really understand what we were doing and observe the beauty of it, but we spent a lot of our time down there in the forest and doing hiking and stuff. And we need full access of that all the way across and all the way through back to the main roads on both sides.
Okay, Rita had a question for you. And I guess this is pertaining to business. If you can be more elaborate on it, Rita, I'd appreciate it. Will you hire locals? And I think I know where this is coming from.
Yeah.
A lot of our stuff in this county is farmed out to outsourced out. Like a lot of our paving and the culverts, all kinds of stuff is bought in from other companies. And we have companies that are here in this county, but they don't seem to be getting the business. There was an event that happened a while back, and I know some of our locals here didn't have a chance to get on that event because they were using outside people from Marion, St. John's and stuff, and it pissed quite a few of our listeners off.
I think it's definitely a priority to use local work whenever you can. Obviously, if their bid is way over what the other people's are, we have to do fiduciary responsibility to take the bid that makes sense. I mean, if there's a huge difference, I believe there's supposed to be a 10% where if you use local, you can go 10% over what the other one was. And if there isn't, we should install something like that. The other thing with locals is there was a movement there to basically eliminate some of the state requirements from the locals as far as for projects that didn't require a state license and all the state requirements. I agree with that wholeheartedly to allow some more competition locally to be able to participate in these bids.
Yeah. Well, to me, there's way too much money that, just like with Fort Gates coming in, That didn't seem to be a priority with a lot of, people.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of business that comes in from Marion County. And the problem that I see with a lot of the business here is that the money that's here in Putnam County leaves Putnam County, but then doesn't come back.
Right. So the goal always should be to try to find every means necessary to bring money into Putnam County. Even if it's our employees that leave the county, we're bringing it back here and we're spending it here locally in our local businesses. We need it not only for building roads and things like that, we need to also start convincing people to shop local. I mean, every time you shop at some of these big box stores and other places like that, or you leave the county to go to a big box store, there's a lot of small mom and pop shops all throughout this county that we could be spending our money at to help locally, both for those families as well as our local economy.
Yeah, I see a lot of the politicians taking a lot of crap over that too. But in fairness to our politicians here, it's not the politicians' place to be promoting your business. That's why they have advertising like the Putnam Way
Right.
or IITW radio. If you have a business and people don't know you're there,
Right.
then don't blame the county because they don't.
So the county does have some responsibility, though, in making sure that the county itself is a harbor for small business to incubator, so that their small business feels like they're open to be able to start a new business or to grow your business. So if we have removed the hindrances to small business, I think that's where the county plays a part in that.
Right, I agree with that. I know, what was it, last year, year before last, I think Paul, Commissioner Harvey and them took it away to where you didn't have to get a county business license anymore as long as you were on SunBiz
Right.
or had the state license, which did help out a lot of businesses. I mean, I could see where it hindered a lot of stuff. But
The only concern I have with removing that license is it kind of takes some of the, I guess, for the safety. If I go into a business with my children and I want to make sure that there was a fire inspection there and things like that, and that kind of removes some of that oversight as far as safety. I think there should be some sort of small fee that basically covers the fire and safety inspection if you're in a bricks and mortar building. That's been talked about recently. I know there's been resistance, but to me, it's a replacement of, businesses aren't going to go out on their own always, and people may not even understand that they have kind of responsibility to their customers to make sure they're having a safe environment in their business.
okay, Anne Marie wrote in, and we're on YouTube and all this other stuff, so my staff is feeding it
Sure.
through there. But Mary Ann wrote in, with a responsibility to take a lower bid, would you help find a way to check the lowest bidder has not just a low bid, but they aren't a company that has not performed before as far as quality, for example, complaints?
So we definitely need to improve our ability to keep track of what's done in the past here. I mean, we just had a big contractor that was kind of kicked out of the county here recently. Don't know what's the background of that exactly, but some of it I heard was due to some low performing contracts and some roads up north of Barden and some of the other areas. We definitely need to keep track of contractors either through cooperation with neighboring counties or through our experience with that contractor. We also shouldn't be entering into contracts 50 or 60 with one person and not spreading the load a little bit, so that in case we fall into a situation where we have a net new contractor we want to give an opportunity to because they're able to bid and they're local. Well, let's say they don't do a good job on that first bid. We want to make sure that other contractors are spread out. If that guy does lower quality work on one bid, we don't want him to own 15, 20 bids. There are some means to take the bids away, but I'd rather us not get to that point.
Let's see. You have a couple other comments on here too. Hello, Marcia. She says hello, Tammy and Travis. Thanks. Doug Williams says Paul is a common sense, community minded, fiscally responsible candidate. Vote for Paul Adamczyk if you
Thank you, Doug.
want action. And then Sean right in, Alabama still sucks. Okay, look, we beat ourselves for the day.
They're not as bad as Syracuse, so.
Todd writes in, if it's a bonded project, doesn't really matter.
I think the bond should be based on the size of the project, right? So if you have a small $10,000 project, obviously you don't need $1 million bond or something like that for that particular contractor. So the bigger jobs definitely should be bonded. And some of the smaller jobs, there should be some leniency there as far as getting local people in that necessarily are small enough that they can't afford the big bond prices, as long as they're insured properly and things like that. If it's a small enough project, I think it makes sense to not have a full-fledged bond.
Yeah, now here's a question, and I asked this in a meeting one time, and I totally got blown off. There was a situation where, and it wasn't one of the county officials. It was one of the county administrators said they wanted to go ahead and renew a contract on a person. And it was Suggs who said it.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm not bashing Suggs or anything. So you people don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing anybody here. But Suggs had said, well, I want to ask if we can go ahead and extend this contract. And
Yep.
I said in the meeting, and I'm not going to get into what the contract was, but I said in the meeting, and I asked the question, I said, how many times has the contract been extended? Well, after I looked it up, that contract has been extended over a 10-year period.
Yep.
Myself, I don't personally, and this is my personal opinion, I don't know the legal ramifications of it, but shouldn't there be people be allowed to bid on those contracts? I mean,
Yeah, so they have what's called a preferred contractor. I don't know how that got started, but I guess it's so that if they have last minute projects, things like that are kind of emergency based, that preferred contractor maybe should get that bid. I do agree with having a preferred contract for emergency based things, for short term things, for small things. Obviously, anything large needs to be done, but that bidding process should be reviewed yearly. If it's a yearly renewal, that should be in front of the Board of County Commissioners a quarter beforehand, so they're looking at it and they're aware of it. And that's happened more than once in the meetings that I've been at, where basically he comes to them and says, hey, this guy's contract's up next week. We need to vote to continue him. And then some of the commissioners would say, hey, how come we didn't look at this earlier? And oh, how about next year we look at it? This stuff definitely needs to be given a quarter beforehand, a month beforehand, so these guys can look and see if there's some other available contractor out there. Definitely someone shouldn't be sitting on a contract for 10 years and just get rubber stamped and move forward.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because somebody wrote that in, and I know
Sure.
what contractor they're talking about, but there's 4 different people that have been wanting to bid on this contract.
Yep.
That they've been cut out of the loop
Right.
every year. And this other person that has the contract, and again, I'm not going to get into any names or what the contract is so people don't start freaking out on me. This is an out-of-town contractor that's
Right.
coming to Putnam County. And we have in-house or in-county people that could do the same job
Absolutely.
that are wanting to bid on it. But this is another example of the money being spent outside of the county. But for 10 years or more than that, I guess.
Yes, this is a pretty frustrating point. And one of the commissioners even brought up, hey, can I get a spreadsheet, even if you don't have a database of it, which was kind of surprising, because I think I was at the same meeting you're talking about, or one similar. And the administrator couldn't produce the names of all the contracts that are due that year in this calendar year, right? And I don't believe he's brought that up again since that instance. And I think a couple more have come up. And I think it's up to us, as once I'm elected to the county commission, to basically bring that forth and demand that the county administrator supply that information on a proactive, early basis, so we can get other people to participate in the contracts, see if we can get a lower bid, see if we can save the county some money, and basically move forward from there. Just rubber stamping stuff and moving forward just is completely unacceptable in any business. And the county is a business.
Yeah, and I agree. I got to agree with Sean on this one. Sean says, stop using out-of-town contractors. I understand that there's some contracts that have to be given that, they might not be FDOT approved companies here.
Right.
FDOT's another whole organization in
Sure.
itself. There's a stinking hair tickling my nose sticking out of my mic. I know it's not one of mine.
So I think that's where the county commission did make a good move a couple months ago, where they got rid of some of the requirements for projects that didn't require FDOT specifications, where they are going to open that up to some more contractors. That is one move that this current administration has made that I think will benefit some of these local guys, and I'm hoping they start winning some of these contracts.
Yeah. Hello, Carrie. Carrie and Carrie. Carrie,
Carrie.
with a K, and he's a female, and Carrie with a C, female. I'll make sure I clear that up. Todd wrote in the bond protects the county and taxpayers. 1.5, 2.5 is a cheap insurance plan. And then Rita wrote in split bids to include local help contractors, hire some locals. Well, the problem I see with the county hiring locals is that, like you just mentioned a while ago,
Right.
They just got a raise, correct? 6%, I believe.
6% for anyone making under $20 an hour.
But that hasn't happened for what, 10 years?
10 years, absolutely.
Was the last time, and I understand that the county has had problems getting people hired in and keeping them, but you I understand that. When you don't get a raise for 10 years,
You want to
that
leave.
sucks.
Right, absolutely. I mean, even if it's just a cost of living raise of 2.5%, 3%, I mean, that's when our business that I work for Dell Computers, when we have a bad year, we all get 2.5%, 3% just cost of living. We move forward. We definitely need some cost of living adjustments, whether it's tied to a national GDP or something like that, just to make sure we keep our employees up to date with inflation. I believe we should have no employee that's making less than the poverty rate for a family of four. Every one of our employees of the county should have the ability to have a wife and a couple of kids and have a little family and be able to sustain themselves and not be below the poverty level. And currently we're not there.
Well, that's the biggest thing I see with the young people in this county now, and it even is with my kids, my children. Somebody's going to say kids, don't call them goats, but my kids, whatever, is that they go to Daytona to shop. Of course, my kids are all in college now,
Sure.
but in the past, they've gone, and I still have two living at home that are in college, but they go out of county. They go to Daytona to shop because we really don't have anything in the mall here,
Right.
or no big places for them to shop, and there's no Chipotle here. That's one of my son's favorite.
Yeah.
But they
There-
leave the
There was
county.
one trying to come here. They ended up not coming. So in downtown Pulaski, they were going to put one on 19, and they end up backing out. So there's another Mexican restaurant that's going to go in with the Firehouse subs.
And there's so many kids that talk about, oh, this county sucks. I can't wait to get out of here.
Right.
Whereas older people, I chose to live here. I wasn't born here.
Yep.
I moved here. I love the lakes, the rivers, the community. It's basically a friendly. Yeah, we have our drug problems and stuff
Sure.
like that, but for the most part, people here will help out. They do get involved. But what can we do to change that to where, as far as keeping our local kids here and letting them grow up and being able to live here
Yep.
instead of wanting to leave? Any suggestions?
So
on that?
part of that is making people aware of what is here. First of all, like there's people talk about skate parks. There's actually a skate park in Interlaken that a lot of people don't even know exists. And I understand it's hard to come from Crescent City to Interlaken and vice versa to do different activities. There's only one pool. We are building a park. They are building a park that has a splash pad on it. Splash pad thing actually I brought up in the meeting because I was actually kind of surprised that they were going through this whole discussion spending $300,000 on this park, and they had no idea of a water feature. It wasn't even brought up. So at the last second, I basically said, hey, we really should look at a water feature. People have been asking for it all the time. I leave the county to go to Hawthorne because they built a new splash pad there to take my kids there. And I have 5 children, so I know all about traveling all over the place to find things for my kids. Luckily, my wife and I have been able to find things for us in the county for the most part. Obviously, bigger things, we leave the county. Shopping, as far as bringing in big box stores, as far as like, I don't think we're going to get at Aeropostale and things like that, things that the kids need to leave the county for to get their designer stuff. I just don't see that in the game just because I don't think we want to be a county with 1 million people. So if we're going to keep our status of being a small town feel to bring in some of those type stores for the kids, it probably isn't in the works. But to bring in stuff that activities, I think, is the key. We have a lot of kids that sit around. My daughter's graduating this year, and they have a hard time, her and her friends, finding something to do. So they tend to, my daughter last night was at her friend's house. They stayed at her friend's. They sat around and watched movies. She comes to our house. They sit around and watch movies. We take them, at some point, teenagers stop wanting to go for a hike in the woods and to go fishing and do the things that the little kids want to do. And we need to find some things for them for sure. There's been some talk about a bigger bounce house type place, which again applies to the little kids, which unfortunately that's kind of where the money is for the size of our county, the smaller children we have. So for teens, I'd love to see a teen like center or something in Palatka, maybe one in Interlaken and one in Crescent City. And I think what that would do is facilitate like a boys and girls club type environment, things like that, where they have activities where they can actually take the teens to do other activities outside of the facility as well. That just isn't talked about much, and I'm surprised by it. There is one group that's a Christian-based group, Young Putnam Youth Life, I think it is, Youth Light, and they do a lot with the teens. But our participation rate, we have a few thousand teens, and we're getting participation of like maybe 50 to 100. Churches are great for the kids and the teenagers to be in. I want my teenager in church as often as possible, but that's not the answer for all the activities for a teenager. They want to explore and learn about life and move out and about and be able to do things.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. There's definitely needs to be a lot more stuff for teenagers. Yeah. I don't think they're getting pregnant anymore because did I hear them right yesterday when I heard that the Putnam Medical Center is shutting down their birthing center.
Yeah, that was brought up yesterday at the end of the meeting. It was a surprising thing to me as well. So it looks like whenever we have a birth, we're going to have to leave the county and go out to Shands or North Florida and other facilities. And to me, that takes a little bit out of, I'm assuming they're going to still be able to do an emergency birth, obviously an emergency room type situation. If we have that, I mean, one of the police officers birthed one in a car, right? So yeah, that's very disappointing to me, especially with the growth of that hospital and the becoming an A-rated hospital now recently, emergency room wise and things like that. To lose a service like that seems like we're going the wrong direction.
Yeah, I mean to me that's crazy. But thank God I'm not having any more children.
Me neither.
I don't want any more. I love my kids to death, but I joke around with them before, and I told them at Christmas time one year,
Yeah.
I said, as crazy as you guys have made me, if I had to go back and have you, I'd be gay. None of you'd be born, but it's too late to change now. But James wrote in and said it's the buddy system. Andrew said, what's happening is a few pockets are getting lined.
Yeah.
Carrie wrote in.
See, we hear a lot about.
Hey, Travis. Hello, Carrie.
We hear a lot about the buddy system and the Good Old Boys Network and things like that. I can tell you all, I absolutely am not part of any of that. They pretty much, I don't think, like that I exist. So I'm going to stand up for what's right, irregardless of what anyone asks me or does. I'm doing everything I can to be able to self-fund my campaign. I did have a couple donors that gave me a considerable amount of money to start, but they truly believe in what we're talking about here, where we're representing the citizens. I will not take money from any of these, the Putnam 40 or whatever people call them. And not because, and I don't think they're all bad people or anything like that, and I think they actually have the right to move their monies together to do that. We need to establish groups, community groups that do the same and get behind candidates that they like as well. That's how you fight the buddy system if that's what your goal is to eliminate politicians that are basically elected because they have the money behind them. Is you find groups of 150 people to give $50 each to match that amount. And that's what we need to do if we want to move this forward.
Well, Todd wrote in and said, I see the county advertising positions. An example, someone to operate heavy equipment like $12 an hour. That's crazy. You're never going to get anybody to work for you at $12 an hour, heavy equipment operator. I got to agree with him on that.
Oh, definitely. And think about it. If you're working for $12 an hour and you're trying to figure out while you're working your job and you're operating one of these big $200,000 pieces of machinery, and you're worrying about what you're going to do to pay your bills at the end of the day, how much focus do you have on that machine not to break it, not to make a mistake with it, to do the best job grading the roads or mowing the sides of the roads, if you're being so underpaid that you actually can't focus on your job the way you should? I think that's a big deal. We definitely need to start developing some sort of pay scale that's based on the prevailing, I don't like to use the word prevailing rate because that means something different, based on the average rates of our surrounding counties. And we need to be able to compete with them to get resources here that we need in order to operate these machines and to do the jobs. And that goes for EMSs, for fire, everything. I mean, we need to be competitive. And to go over to school district there, they've been looking for bus drivers since I moved here almost 6 years ago. So
that sign's always scrolling there.
Yeah.
Bus drivers needed. People will complain about not having, and that's kind of a catch-22.
Right.
Our buses are overcrowded, but yet they're not. There's plenty of jobs there for bus drivers.
Yep.
I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the pay is.
Well, the difference is if you go over to Marion County, for instance, which is, I live 2.5 miles from the border of Marion County, right? So if I wanted to be a bus driver, I go to Marion County where the district basically trains you. They do it in-house. They have the facilities to train you to be that level driver. And then basically they give you, I think they guarantee 36 hours of pay, whether you're there 36 hours or not doing it. And they pay you about $4 more an hour than we pay here. So are you going to drive 30 minutes for that when you're guaranteed the hours? And that's the draw, right? If you're guaranteed the hours as a bus driver, you're more likely to go than if you're just working piecemeal, part of the day type thing.
Well, that, and you're talking about 4, 5, 10 hours more a week.
Right.
That's worth the drive over there.
Absolutely.
And I know four different bus drivers that leave Putnam County to go drive in St. Johns County. Well, 3 of them in St. Johns and 1 in Volusia County.
Yep. And on the other end of the county, there's 5 or 6 that go to Marion County.
Sean Wright, Todd, they would if they would bring back the union contract.
I think they're still under a union contract through the Carpenters Union, which I'm not sure how that aligns. But don't know that the union's done the greatest job in the world of representing its employees from that perspective, but those equipment operators stuff are part of the carpenters union, is my understanding.
It said, let's see, don't forget Melrose.
Melrose Youth Sports Association is where I volunteer and coach. I coach t-ball and softball there, as well as soccer here. This was just the last game I coached was this weekend. Coached 2 games. Absolutely, Melrose is a beautiful place, and we definitely need to get as much exposure up there and to every part of the county. This is where the commission, I think, goes wrong. These guys try to segregate the county based on the fact they're District 5 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. There's 1 or 2 commissioners that don't do that. They'll cross lines and do whatever it takes for whoever, wherever. I'm going to be a commissioner that comes to you whether you live in Georgetown, you live in Melrose, or you live down in Hawthorne where I'm at, and we're going to be there helping you and interacting with you. That's my goal, is to be able to hear everybody and get in contact with everybody I can. A 5-man commission cannot make all the decisions of this county on their own without the input of the public. And I'm not, by input of the public, I don't just mean my friends and my family that give me the input that I want because it makes me feel good, because it lets me say yes, because, hey, all the guys that are in agreement with me are the only ones giving me input. Of course, you're going to feel good about it. You need to be able to take the criticisms and take the questions and get back to people. There are things, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There are things like that you hear deferred to all the time where the commissioners will say, well, that's a state issue. Well, that's a city of Plaque issue. Well, what's so hard about taking that issue and saying, hey, let me get you to the contacts with the state. Let me follow up with them with you. And then you get back to them. And yeah, it is a state issue, but there's no reason why a county commissioner can't call the people. And they should know all those people, the contacts in the different cities and towns and locations and the state, to be able to reach out on your behalf to get you back in information. It's just but they throw their hands up and say, oh, that's a state issue and can't do nothing. It's just not appropriate in my eyes. If you look at my Facebook page, I wrote a whole post about that subject because it frustrates me so much every time I hear that.
Yeah, you guys can go to us. If you look at the top of the screen, if you're on YouTube, I don't know, is it scrolling on YouTube, Chris?
It's scrolling everywhere.
Okay, it's scrolling everywhere, unless you're on Radio Co., which it runs throughout Europe and all over the place. It's just for listeners there. But as far as if you're on any visual type, you can see at the top of the screen, it says for more information, go to @Paul for Putnam. It's scrolling slow.
That's it. @Paul for Putnam on Facebook.
@Paul for Putnam on Facebook.
So if you just up in your search bar, if you just type @Paul for Putnam, it'll bring you right to it. And that post was one of the original ones, so scroll down about 10 or 12 posts.
Now, there's a couple. I'm going to get to this next question in a minute from Andrew, but that's the one thing, and probably the most thing that's said to me the most, is that South Putnam, Interlochen, Melrose,
Yep.
anything outside of Palaca is bastardized by this county. I mean, it's not something that I'm saying or trying to get more
No.
ratings here.
Sure.
It's just that's what I hear with having, we've got 14.9 million people that read the
Right.
Putnam Way and some 68,000 residents in Putnam County out of 74,000
Right.
that read the Putnam Way. So we get a lot of feedback, a lot more than what the county does, But that seems to be the consensus, is that if you live in South Putnam, outside of Crescent City,
Right.
then you're bastardized. If you live in Interlochen,
Sure.
or
And then if you get
Melrose.
past Interlochen, there's over 3,500 people that live in the Hawthorne part past Interlochen in West Putnam. And there's commissioners, I believe, that don't even know where we live unless you were to drive them to your house. I mean, it's pretty bad. I think we need to, like I said again, we need to represent every corner of this county equally, and we need to make sure everyone's getting the resources they need. If we can't do that, we're not doing our job. And if the current commission can't do that, then we need to find new commissioners, whether it's myself or someone else. We need to find other people to get in there that are going to represent all the people of this county.
Okay, 2 really good questions here. I guess this is a question. It's a statement as well. But we need to have a trade. This comes from Andrew. We need to have a trade school for young adults as well.
So if anyone remembers, I did run for school board in 2016, and one of the big things that I pushed for was a trade school. Not only a trade school for the trades that we need here, building trades are huge. If we had an influx of home building and homes needed here, we don't have the skills here in the county currently to even do the work. So we would have no choice but to bring people from the outside, because the people here aren't available to be hired because they just don't exist. Trade school, as far as getting HVAC, plumbing, heating, we need to get back to that here. We We need to start getting people where they can get into a small business. Of starting that up, I mean, there is some requirements. I am part of the contractors board for the county. We did reinstate local licensing again just in the last couple of months. That's a good thing. The county did approve it after we went through and rewrote the statute to be able to get that done. So we've already had, I think, 6 people come in and apply for their local license so they can start doing work back here in the county now under the local testing without having to pay all the fees and have all the financial requirements to be a state licensed contractor. I think that's going to help some of the, I've had a problem. I have a concrete pad I want poured since we bought our house 3 years ago where we live now. And I can't get people to even show up to give me a bid because they're either so busy or they don't want a small job. The more of these smaller licensed contractors we can get in all the different fields, the more options we're going to have as a community, the more competition there's going to be. It's going to be better for us pricing wise, and it's going to be better for everyone because we're going to have more people working and creating more financial, basically.
Okay, so right now they can go down. We're going to have to get you on another night because we're
Sure.
going to be running out of time here pretty soon. We only have 20 minutes left. And I want to get to these questions, as many of them
Sure.
as I can, but I want to get back to that on the trade school
Yep.
and also on the license. Let me just take a quick second here. So if a person say I'm going to do concrete work,
Yep.
and I'm just a small guy, I don't have a contractor's license. I don't want to go to jail for representing myself as a contractor.
Sure.
What can I do to get some of these smaller jobs like yours without going to jail?
So you would go to the building codes department, and they basically will sign you up to become a contractor. You do need to have some experience underneath someone that's willing to sign off that says you've worked in that field and done some of the work. We just can't legitimately have someone go, hey, I want to be a concrete contractor and just never done it before and go. So there is some background that they need from you as far as someone signing off saying, hey, this guy does have experience doing this. He worked for me for a couple of years. He worked for this other guy for a couple of years.
Now, does that person have to be a licensed contractor that's going to sign the paperwork?
At this time, they do, yes.
Okay. So then they can go in.
And
I
then
didn't mean to cut
basically,
you short, but
if the building department agrees that you meet those qualifications based on and it's not a heavy set of qualifications, then they basically refer you to that contractor's board to sign up to be able to take. There's a test involved to test just that you have the knowledge and some business acumen to be able to start a business and be a licensed contractor. And then once you pass that and you pass our questioning from that board, which is a board of 5 contractors and 2 representatives from the community. I'm one of the community representatives, basically because some of the stuff that comes before us isn't just validating new contractors. If someone has a complaint about a contractor, things like that would come in front of that board as well.
okay. Let me move on. I want to
One
get
other
you
thing I
back
want
in
to
here.
say on the trade school stuff, one thing I did present to the county is we talk about technology. I come from a technology background. I worked for Dell Computers since the day I got out of the Navy in 1997 until today. So I'm still there. Started off as EMC. EMC and Dell merged about 4 years ago. One thing I proposed to the county, the school board basically at the time, was to have real technology coursework. This stuff that they do with STEM and stuff is awesome, but there is basically things where you can come out of high school with certifications, not just the Microsoft certifications, where you can come out with CNE certification of Cisco and other things. We need to look into that because that really is the future for our young kids that don't want to necessarily get their hands dirty. And every kind needs to be accommodated. People that want to get their hands dirty and people that want to work behind a monitor and do things like that. We need to accommodate all of our students and what they aspire to do.
I know now they do have some programs like that. My daughter
Yep.
had graduated with her EKG thing, and
Yep.
One of my oldest boys had graduated, not here in this county, but he had a welding
Sure.
thing, and he went to work for Tropicana, making decent money.
Absolutely.
So, and I know they do have that in Putnam County, but Sean wrote in, and I want to get you back on the show because
Sure.
there's no way we can cover everything that everybody's writing in. Again, if I don't get to your question tonight, I'm sorry. I am going to have Mr. Paul back in here again, probably several times because there's a lot we need to go over. So that you guys, and the reason I'm starting to do these meet your candidates is because you guys, when you're up on, the platform, you maybe have 20, 50 people show up.
Sure.
And so people don't really get to meet you guys and find out exactly what you're about. This way it gives them, they're going to know who Paul is.
Yeah.
After, we do 5 or 10 shows, they're going to know who you are or who are the other commissioners that are running. It says, Sean wrote in and said, the problem with centers is they don't, and that center, CENTERS, not SINERS, is they don't have the support of the county in keeping the drugs out. And we have a big drug problem here.
Yeah.
Hello, Miss Debbie and
So-
Nora.
I think we need to do things to enable the sheriff's department to get out there and get more drug dealers off the streets. Celebrate Recovery, I think, has been a very successful organization in Palatka. We need to maybe get some organizations like that. They are Christian-based, that are basically bringing people from drugs to Christ. We need to get some more of that throughout the county. Maybe mirror off of what they're doing, meet with Jeremy Ray and people like that to find out what they're doing and get other centers throughout the county. That may be his intention. I actually have never asked him that. I probably should ask him that, because that would be a very interesting concept, is to basically repeat what they're doing in downtown Palatka and throughout the other areas of the county. It's been very successful. A lot of people have been brought to God. A lot of people have been brought away from drugs. It's a great win-win, in my opinion.
Yeah, they need a drug treatment center here. There's no
Yeah,
doubt
absolutely.
about that. I mean, I was in, better cancer centers.
Yep.
I was shocked and floored to see what we were setting at 65 out of 66 county.
Yep.
In Putnam County for having the highest cancer rate, diabetes,
Right.
all kinds of crap.
And-
That's for another show.
And
though.
a holding center is not a a recovery center,
Yeah.
a drug recovery center. And that's kind of what we do right now. The judges put them in the holding center. They go through a little program. They get out. It's no fault of the sheriff's office. It's the hand they're dealt. But yes, definitely an outside. It would probably take funding and working with an outside company to come in to run a treatment center for drug treatment center. I think we would be well off if we had something like that here.
Yeah, and the sheriff's department, a lot of people don't understand. They are not there to rehabilitate people
Correct.
off of drugs. They're there to bust their butts
Yep.
when they break the law.
Yep.
So plain and simple. Sean wrote in, what position is Paul running for?
Putnam County Board of County Commissioners, District 5, which it is a county-wide election, so District 5 shouldn't mean anything to you, because we're running for the whole county, and we should all represent the whole county, in my opinion.
Oh, Cheryl's watching. Cheryl Holt, James's wife.
Hey, Cheryl.
I love her. I got pictures I'm going to put up one day. Every time I see her. But most people don't get pictures of me because I'm hiding behind the camera.
Yep.
She dogged on me at this veterans bass tournament that they had helped at. So we kind of have a thing going
And
right
Cheryl's
now.
out our way in West Putnam.
She's a tough cookie. She's I think she's still the chief of the
Yep,
fire
yep.
department out there, isn't she?
Yes, sir. And thank you for your leftover back to school bash stuff that we used at our church for our back to school bash. So thank you very much, Cheryl.
The county. Sean writes in, the county used to have equipment operator union.
Oh, okay.
Doug put in, Putnam County has a lot to offer. Even Bassmaster tournaments are held here. That's a huge amount of attention, and we need to capitalize on this opportunity. This is a bass fishing capital. Now, the one thing I'm going to say about that here recently is that one of the bass tournaments came in,
Yep.
and the county allowed them to sell beer.
Yep.
But only they were allowed to sell beer, and they were allowed to sell their own stuff. Now, let me ask you what you think about that, because that cut our locals right out of it. They took our money again, took the money out, and I know it's important to have Bassmasters here, but if we promoted it and we had, I'm not going to get into the whole Chamber of Commerce thing here, but if we
Yeah.
promoted it and even promoted it on here, I mean, we have 14.9 million
Sure.
people that listen.
I think if we were smart and we were going to have a Bassmasters back, and I believe they are coming back next year, what we would do is we would have some sort of small festival based around that, where we could bring in some local food trucks, some local vendors as well. If it's part of the contract with ESPN and Bassmasters that they can have a beer tent, well, we should be able to have around the corner, if we close down part of St. John's, just like we do for the Blue Crab, have some other vendors serving food and different things in the same vicinity as a festival type thing.
But, we're bringing them in here and we're paying them.
Yep.
I don't think it should be that way. I mean, we are the bass capital of the world. If they want to fish
Absolutely.
here, I think we should charge them dock fees. And I love Bassmasters.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
get me wrong. I'm a bass fisherman. I love bass fishing, although I never have time to go. But I think that we should be charging them when they come here, not kissing their butts and catering to them. What do you feel about that?
So the only way I can get to this is by going to the TDC, and they're spending the $90,000 to bring Bassmasters here, and the problem I have with that more so than just what you're saying, which I think we need to get as much local participation in any activity that comes to our county, is the fact that we really don't have measurables to what that really brought into the county outside the fact that we had some cool bass boats out there. And I never saw more than 500 or 600 people down there in the 2 days that I stopped by. To me, that just isn't big enough for what we spent to bring people in. As far as if we're paying them $90,000, yeah, I don't know how they negotiate that contract, because again, it's taken out of the hands of the county commission. We turn it over to this TDC, which has been run by the same people for 20 some years under going back to repeatable contracts. That contract's been in place for 20 some years with the TDC, has never been edited and never been revised, or we don't really get regular changeover in the group of people that are running the TDC. That I think is where it lacks, is we're not negotiating properly with these entities when we bring them in.
Isn't the TDC supported by the county and the taxpayers?
Yes,
though?
sir. It's supported by the bed tax.
But they don't have, the county doesn't have say-so in
The
that.
county has one vote on it. It was basically the county the chairman of the board is on that TDC.
Okay. Marcia Baldwin says, thank you, Paul, for making this great effort. Hello, Desiree. Desiree, you are in big trouble with your big buddy there, Mr. Greg Williams. I have his political show on Tuesday nights that we do. You did not show up last night. He would not sing Desiree.
So just to clarify, in the TDC, once they do choose the projects they're going to go to, the county commission does vote on the projects. They're just
Okay.
not part of selecting what projects come about.
Well, I noticed yesterday in one of the things that went up there, it had what everybody was paying out, but then it
Right.
said the Chamber of Commerce, and it had unknown, 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 unknown. I guess we'll get into that later. Let's see. Sean said bring the operating engineers, union.
I'm curious if Sean, if you could reach out to me, I'm curious how that worked, because we don't have. I mean, there's only 170 some employees in the county, just so everyone's aware. It's not a huge workforce. The school district's much bigger. I'm just curious if it couldn't have been just a county-owned only type thing. It had to be in conjunction with other counties. So I'm thinking that's maybe why they sought representation from the Carpenters Union. I don't think it was a good choice, because I don't think it's benefited them in the last 10 years. But I'd be curious how the Operators Union worked in the past, because that's not who's doing it now.
Now, here's a good question from Rita. It says, will you be accessible to your public where you can be reached?
Absolutely. You can reach me today. I'll get my phone number. Everything's out there. It's on everything that I print out. It's on my Facebook page. And I try to respond within an hour to anyone that calls me, or obviously if you call me at midnight or something, I'm not going to respond. But to anyone that calls, writes, or emails, all that is out there, and I'm available to everyone.
Okay. Somebody else said thank you for taking this opportunity and trying to be there for Putnam County, get rid of the good old boys. Todd, right? Well, you're going to have your hands full trying to figure out what to do with all the forest roads in Putnam County.
Yep.
It's let down all the taxpayers on.
Sure.
Nora said, I'm impressed with his common sense. Yeah, me too, Nora. Nora's one of the longtime readers of the Putnam Way and listener on IITW radio. Doug says, I know Paul, and what he is saying is how he lives and feels. This isn't lip service to get elected.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, I never intended to run for any political office in my life. When I came here, I just saw things that bothered me so much that I got involved. My father told me when I was growing up, if you put up or shut up, and I'm not one to shut up, so I have to put up. So it's kind of, I'm in a catch-22. I like to talk about things. I like to be involved. And if I'm just not the type of person that can go out and say things that are wrong, I need to come with solutions and come with ideas and how to fix them. And that's part of what my candidacy is about, is being able to bring solutions to the board, common sense solutions, and be proactive. That's the key, is we have no proactivity right now. We're reacting to everything.
Now, if any of the county if commissioners thinks I'm bashing them right now, I'm not. The stuff that I'm reading tonight is coming in from your constituents. Yeah. Desiree wrote in and said they don't live out here, so they don't care, kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, so everyone knows I live in the woods about as far back as you can get, so we're sand roads back to sand roads, so I live in it every day with you guys.
Rita writes in and needs local vocational training, which we covered that, which I got to agree with that 100%. We need a
Absolutely.
vocational training center here with air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, anything that, and once we start bringing those things in, get the youth out here working and training them, they're going to stay here. And
Yeah.
people are going to use them and not get.
One thing I want to mention in reference to that, right? We need that for whether it's to build commercial buildings or to build houses or to maintain houses, to come in and fix our toilets, to come in and replace our roofs, to do our windows, window replacement, all that kind of stuff. We need all those facilities. But one thing we got to keep in mind too is we need to figure out a way to grow our commercial presence in the county. Basically, any of our houses at most break even from a taxpayer. What we pay in covers the cost of the county for us. So if we don't bring in commercial businesses, we have a few big ones. We can't always rely on these huge companies, GP and Vulcan, and obviously the two electric companies that are out there. We can't rely on them 100% for our future. We need to have more small businesses, and basically small business generates between 10 to 30 times what they pay into taxes, 10 to 30 times their cost to the county. Because that small business has that same footprint in front of their business as we have in front of our houses, but they generate sales tax, they generate a higher rate of commercial rate, and they basically generate more income into the county, which allows us to do more for all the citizens.
Yeah, now I'll give a shout out here to St. John Shipbuilding up there, Steve and
Yep.
Ben and all those guys. They do a great job, and they are hiring, by the way. So if anybody's looking for a job, you have to be able to pass a piss test, man. Chris is good at this stuff, ain't he?
Yeah.
As soon as it comes out of my mouth, he's got it up on the screen. It's 386-328-6054, 386-328-6054. You can call them. They are hiring. They're always hiring.
So
And
one thing specific to the shipbuilders is they had a need for welders here recently. I think he was looking for up to 20 to 30 welders. I think one of the posts that they put out there was all 3 high schools have a welding program. I think it would behoove our district, and that's separate from the county commission, but it'd behoove our district. And I did talk to Rick Cerncy about this at one point. I'm not sure if they ever got together. Unfortunately, as a private citizen, I can't put the two of them together. So I can't find out who the students are that graduate welding certificates out of the high school. I can't bring that to St. John's Shipbuilders, and St. John's Shipbuilders would have to go to Rick. I don't know if they've ever connected, but there is that facility, and I think if we were smart, we would find a way to partner St. John's Shipbuilding with the school district so that the people who are graduating meet the needs of St. John's Shipbuilders, and we keep some of our graduating students here in the county.
Well, they teach. I mean, they're like a vocational school out there
Yep.
as well. They have carpenters, they have
Sure.
welders, they have floor guys, framers. I mean, you name it. That's a full service out there.
Right.
And they will train people, and they pay good, and they have good benefits. Let me get to some more of these other questions because we're running out of time quick. It says, Marie writes in and says, Putnam also needs to focus on bringing something in for youth. So maybe this generation that's just entering school this year and last can keep their minds busy to keep them off the streets. And she says she'll volunteer. Now that's not a bad idea, and I see where she's going with that. If a lot of people would just get more involved with
Sure.
some of these kid things and volunteer to teach them stuff as well.
Yep.
Like if any kid wanted to come in here and learn radio, we'd be glad to teach them. I mean,
Absolutely.
Chris was straight out of college and came in here, and he's taken over. He knows what, I told him what I wanted, then he blew up on it. I'm sure Chris wouldn't mind having some young person sitting here and teaching them. I mean,
Yeah.
and paying it forward, just like I wouldn't mind putting a kid on a mic back here.
I'll say this as someone who's coached in both West Putnam Athletic Association as well as Melrose Youth Sports Association. For the number of kids that are out there, the participation rate's pretty low, at least out in West Putnam. We have to scramble to try to put teams together in order to have enough teams to play, enough players. All the parents out there, there are great programs in all the areas of the county. Don't allow a difference with one coach or one person or anything stop you from putting your kid into these programs. They're good. The people are getting training. I know I go through the Babe Ruth training every year. There's training to identify sexual predators. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on now in the background for these coaches that wasn't there 20 years ago. I've been coaching basically since 1997. The only time I took a break from coaching from 97 till I moved here was basically that 6 months when I was running for school board, and I'm going to take a break again starting in January after the soccer season until this election, and then I'll be right back to coaching youth. And just keep your eye out. There's always stuff. There's a kickball league starting up in Palaca for kids 4 and up. I mean, the 4-year-olds can get involved in things here. Soccer out in Melrose, that's just because that's what I'm familiar with. That's 4 and up as well. And get your kids involved in these things. If they're outside, they're kicking a ball, they're running around. That benefits them a lot more than sitting at home on a device.
Yeah, we're going to be putting stuff up on the Putnam Way. We're going to here real soon. Different. I've got a thing called on a half a tank,
Yep.
and it's places where people can take the kids to see different things, like Fort Gates Ferry
Sure.
or Blue Springs or Salt Springs, or
Yep.
even over on the other side of the river. There we have the Mullins House, which used to be Fort Gates House.
Yep.
There's one of the oldest school buildings sitting right here in Willaca. There's also the fish hatchery that has their
Yep.
aquarium center there. It doesn't cost anything. So if people need to get involved with their kids.
And there's trails just this week, and I took my 3 sons out on a trail hike. I mean, and I couldn't believe they made it through it. My twins are only 4 years old. They actually did better than my 6-year-old son. We went basically the trail. If you go past Rotahevers, the second trail up there, not the bird one, the other one, and we made that whole loop. It's about 3.2 miles, and them kids were troopers, man. But there's all kinds of ways to get out in nature. Just make sure when you go on the trails, if you got little kids, make sure they're capable of doing the trail. My sons have been doing trails with me since they were 2. So if you do one of those trails, try to go out a half mile the first time, come back. Maybe the next time extend it a little bit further and come back. Where I think the county's role in this is basically in helping fund and helping create an environment where parks and recreation and the trail system can be maintained and furthered. That's where the county's role is in all of this, and making sure that environment is safe, that the fields are safe, that they're mowed, all that kind of stuff maintained. Maintenance is one of the key things in this county. Is a lot of things just go unmaintained and then it turns into a disaster at the end, and then we react instead of being proactive.
I got to cut you right there.
Sure.
For you people listening on Radio Co, the time is going to time out here in 2 minutes and 33 seconds. So switch over to YouTube to IITW Radio or the Putnam Way on YouTube, or go over to Facebook and hit up the Putnam Way. You don't mind staying a couple extra minutes, do you?
No problem.
I just want to get a couple more of these answered, and then we'll let you get out of
Sure.
here. You're a popular guy tonight. There's a lot of questions people have.
And then anyone, if we don't get to your question, feel free to call me directly. Numbers on Facebook.
But if you're listening in 2 minutes, it's going to end on Radio Co. and in Europe and over there. So kick over to Facebook, go to the Putnam Way or IITW Radio. And that's Indigo Tango Whiskey, IITW Radio. Let's see. And to the county commissioners that are listening to this, these are your constituents. And what I'm saying is not something I'm making up. You can see the screen over here, I believe. There's 6 screens here, so all kinds of stuff going on. But
70 comments we haven't yet.
yeah, there's still 70 more comments that we're not going to get to. Doug writes in, if you are damn sick of the current board of commissioners, then vote for Paul Adamczyk. He will bring change to Putnam County. Marcia writes in, wouldn't it be something out of bounds if the county commissioners to work together with the school superintendent, school board, / whomever, et cetera, to work out.
Do you mind if I
school
make
bus
a comment in
transportation
reference to that?
and a plan for Barden residents due to the bridge situation? I think she's referring to the Barden.
If we go back to when there was the school shooter and the district and the sheriff, basically Rick Sorensen and Sheriff Deloach basically worked together to start doing the program with the SROs as well as the Guardian program. The commission basically ducked their head. They didn't get involved in all. I was highly involved in that. I was at every one of those meetings. A commissioner didn't show up, and actually at that time the shared monies that the commission has with the district, and this isn't an attack on the commissioners, this is just the fact of what happened. They pulled that money in the middle of that. That could have been 2 more SROs for the district. We're still short on SROs. Not every school has an SRO. I believe we're up to 13. I'll ask Sheriff Deloach tomorrow just to verify that, and I'll post it if I'm wrong. But I think we're at 13 of the 18 schools that have an SRO. All of them, I believe, have a guardian or an SRO. And I just feel like the county commission in that instance didn't step up when it could have. And they basically washed their hands of it. And public safety should be one of our number one concerns. And I can tell you right now, if I'm a commissioner, I'm going to be at those meetings if that happens.
Yeah, I want to get into that real quick. Got to adjust my chair here. got a bad piston. Nora says, thanks, Travis, for doing this show. Great idea. Hi, Ann. Enjoying your trip. That was from Mary Wells.
They were having a conversation in the comments.
Oh, okay.
No.
They're having a conversation between them. Well, I want to get on this. No trip yet. PR is next planning now. Where are we going? She said, Cheryl said she will post hers. Okay, these guys got their own little conversation going on. Yeah, let's see. Marie wrote, but there's nothing here to challenge their minds. It went blank. Got to feed the youth with more jobs and within arcades, skating rink, study groups, Big Brother, Big Sister programs. The list goes on. That's another good thing, or another thing to talk about. And we'll have to get to that about skating rinks and different things that the county could do to get investors in here. And there's a lot of people that would invest in these things. A go-kart track, which I'm currently working with somebody right now on a putt-putt golf course for Putnam County, and we're talking about opening up a putt-putt golf if the interest is there.
So this goes back to being a hospitable place for new business, right? So allowing new businesses to come in and make proposals and build themselves out and support them any way the county can. Does that mean advertising for a specific business? No, the county shouldn't be doing that. They're not in the business of picking and choosing winners and losers. But in a way, if we go back to the contracts, in a way they're doing that. So we got to get away from that as far as contracts go. And on the flip side, we need to make it a friendly environment for new businesses to come in, whether that's through abating commercial properties. We talk about the abatement thing. They're making a big deal out of it. If they're going to do abatement, they need to focus on abating any commercial properties that can be abated first, because the commercial properties is where the bang for the buck, the return back to the county is, and that's where we need to focus. And that would allow. It's hard to come in and say I'm going to build a brand new putt-putt facility with a go-kart track when there's a dilapidated building on each side of you. It's just the placement of it doesn't make sense. So we need to make sure that those areas are open, that people know that they're business areas and that they're basically available.
Now, I've got something. I probably shouldn't bring it up right now, but I'm going to put it up anyways. A couple school teachers came to me about 2 months ago, I guess it was, with an app that they have called My Safe School app.
Okay.
And this app right here, I had it on a show one night, and Jason and his buddies came up and showed me this app, and we actually worked it. And he got the idea because his daughter was born the day after Stoneman Douglas High School shooting down there. And this app is kick butt. Now, when they contacted some of the different counties,
Sure.
here in Putnam County, we have, and I've got to give, I haven't talked to Mr. Surrency about it yet, so I've got to give him a fair shake on it.
Sure.
And this has nothing to do with bashing him, by the way.
Yep.
It's showing this thing for this My Safe app right now. It has fire, it has help. I'll get into that Safe app because I think this is a real important thing. But when he went before the county, and it was not Rick Surrency in the county that told him this, so I want to point that out and make that really clear, that there's 100,000 or 10,000 kids in Putnam County schools. The app would basically cost $10 a kid. So it comes out to $100,000.
Sure.
But in that $100,000, that includes all the parents, all the sheriff's department, the first responders, EMS, fire, ambulance, everything. This is a kick butt app. We in less than 30 seconds when we ran a test run on it.
Sure.
We had identified a school shooter, and this is hypothetical school shooter, by the way. Yeah. We had identified him. It had went to the teacher, had been verified, and it was setting at the sheriff department box and with EMS. We're in Stoneman. It took the operator 9 minutes before she actually got a hold of. This was a live feed that can be done, kick butt app on this thing. So it actually comes out to pennies, but it was told that it's not cost effective. I mean, how do you feel about something like that? I mean, because what we've got, I go in the school board over there, and again, I'm not bashing the school system, but they got 2-inch plated Lexan there.
Right. What do we put? What's the value of our students' lives? I mean, I guess that's where you go with that. I mean, our value of it is infinite. Our children are our future. Our children are today. They're tomorrow. They're everything. If we don't do everything we can to protect our children, we're failing the community as a whole because they are the future of our community. $10 per person seems negligible.
Well, the reason I say this is because just a few days ago, there was a kid that's been at a high school, or he's in high school. And with our school busing system, the way it is, elementary, middle school, and high schoolers are all getting the same buses.
Sure.
So they're all at the same bus stop. This bully comes down there, and at first he starts spitting on these kids. Then he comes down with an aerosol gun and shoots them, one of those foam rubber ones.
Yeah.
We showed up last week or a couple of weeks ago with a 45 loaded, pointing it at these elementary kids and telling them he's going to blow them away. Now, I don't know what the police have done about it because the kid's under 18. Right. That is a felony. I don't know what's been done about it. I've still got to talk to Mr. Surrency and the sheriff's department. I'm waiting on a call back
so
from them.
the app would be on the kids' phones as
on
well?
On the kids' phone,
okay.
And they could have alerted right then. They could have alerted authorities. And it would have video of him and everything. And right there, because at some point, we've had a ton of suicides.
Right.
A bunch of suicides in the last few years with high school students, middle school students here in Putnam County.
Yep.
And these kids obviously have some mental disabilities. When if a kid's going to kill themselves, there's definitely something wrong.
Right.
And a lot of these other places, the kids have taken out other kids with them.
Yeah.
So I wonder how you feel about that, because so far, Putnam County schools, and I called Tallahassee about this, and they said there is an app already available.
Right.
But it's up to the counties to where they want to use it or not.
I'll go with this too on this particular app. I mean, $10 each. A lot of parents would be willing to pay their share of that too. You said it's $10 each for my kids. I would pay $50.
Yeah.
And that would alleviate some of that. So I think if you share the responsibility of the app with the parent and the school district, maybe split it 70-30. It's $3 to download this app to your kid's phone. I mean, I'm not all for kids carrying phones, so that kind of takes that a little bit out of it as far as the app goes. But my older daughter does carry a phone, but my other 4, I'm hoping, never do until they're done with school, outside of school. But as a general purpose, the majority of kids have their face in a phone. So I think a lot of parents would share in that cost with the district. And I think we could also do a fundraiser to raise a lot of that money if it means protecting our students.
Yeah, I mean, even if I still had kids in school, I would pay split the difference with the county, $5. But it's not just that. The grandmother is totally pissed off about what happened, and I don't blame her. And I'll tell you myself personally, if somebody had pulled a gun on one of my kids at a bus stop, somebody would be in big doo-doo right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. But this app, would you be willing to check out this app and look at it?
Sure, absolutely.
Give me your thoughts on it. I mean, I've looked at it. I've looked at probably 50 apps since the shooting happened down in South Florida. This is the best app I have seen yet.
I think the district has some sort of app, but I think it's basically employee-based. It's not student. Not everyone has it, which I like the idea of this. If you're saying all the employees have it, all the teachers have it, the custodian has it on his phone, all the students have it, push a button if there's something critical happening. You get quick response. That's absolutely sounds
Put that back
positive.
up, Chris, real quick, if you don't mind, please. On and then scroll down, and I'll show you the buttons it has on it. But right now, and something that I didn't know until I actually got involved with doing this stuff, is that if right now, because of what happened down there in South Florida, a kid pulled the fire alarm. Now, if there's a fire alarm goes off, the kids have to sit there until it's been verified. Well, they have portable classrooms, and I mean, it doesn't take but 5 minutes. You were a fireman at it doesn't take but a split second. That split second can mean the difference between life and death. With this app, if you look on here, it has a fire button, it has a help button, it has a fight button, and it has a threat button. So if there's a fire and a kid sees a fire, he can push the button. The teacher that is in the vicinity now, this is just with different districts too. This doesn't ring throughout all the schools in Putnam County. This would be, say, it was Crescent City High School.
Yep.
It would be limited to the students there, and then at Interlochen High, it would be limited to them. Plaquet would be limited to where their area is at, their district. It also sets in the IP address for that child, so and it has a pinging system so that they know right where that student's at. So say this happened at the bus stop and they felt a threat, they could push that. The video would feed it right into either a teacher or would feed it into the sheriff's department, they would be able to see that video live right then and see what the threat is.
Right.
And be able to get there quicker. They wouldn't have to wait 9 or 10 minutes on 911 call.
So I see what you're saying. They're standing there, a fire breaks out in a classroom or something. They hit the fire button. The fire's right there in the video. They don't have to confirm anything. They can just get in there and take
Right.
care
The
of it.
teacher can hit the confirm button. We did it,
Got
and
it.
it took less than 6 seconds on most of the stuff.
That's impressive.
The help button or a fight. If there's a fight in the hallways, and say this kid's got a gun, he pulls it out, or if a knife. And there was a situation up in Orange Park up there.
Yep.
Just recently, where there was a gun that was brought into the school. Well, the kids knew that a kid ratted him out, so he gave it to another kid.
Right.
So they were playing swap around and hide from these teachers. But with that app, they could have click, there's a picture of it, there's the gun.
And there's the kid's face.
With this other app that they were using up there, it took them hours to find it, find out. And then the administrator, everything has to go through them. With this, it goes through teachers, administrators. Everybody gets alerted at the same time. The person in the vicinity. But anyways, I just wanted to check it out.
There definitely would be some training that would be needed there too for who's responsible for what when it's pushed, things like that, and that would probably go hand in hand. It's probably where some of the cost concerns of whomever you talk to came from. But,
yeah, they do the training.
Yep.
It takes about 2 hours of training for the whole app. I mean, I got the app in like less than 10 minutes. I knew exactly what to do. He explained the app to me. I went on there. He goes, okay, say there's a fight now. What do you do? I hit the fight app.
Right.
You see somebody on campus with a gun. What do you do? I hit the alert button, So
Definitely,
it's really
definitely
simple.
have to check it out.
Yeah. I'm going to have him get in touch with you. Let's see. You know what? We're going to cut it off right there, guys and gals. I know there's a ton of comments still on here, but we have run out of time a long time ago. And I know you still have a drive all the way back out to Hollister.
Oh, past that.
Or past Hollister out into the boonies.
Hawthorne towards Orange Springs.
Holy crap. Me, I only have a short drive when I'm home.
You mind if I just mention one thing real quick?
No, go ahead.
This weekend, this Saturday, November 16th, we have a fall festival at Woodlawn Baptist Church in Hawthorne, right on County Road 20A. It's the only church in County Road 20A. If you come down County Road 21, you turn right on 20A if you're coming from 20, and you'll be right there on the left. It'll be our church. It's going to be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Everything is free. It's open to the public. We're going to be making food. We got a bunch of games. We got some bounce houses coming. Thank you to St. John's River Baptist Association. We got some bounce houses, snow cones, cotton candy, popcorn, everything kids love. So all you guys from all over throughout the county, come on out to Woodlawn Baptist and enjoy yourselves.
Okay, give them the address one more time.
It's 808 County Road 20A.
And that's in Hollister.
In Hawthorne, Florida.
Hawthorne.
Johnson.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to give you the last minute or two before I close out. Your election. What do you want to tell people?
Hey,
vote for Paul.
Yeah, vote for me. I'm here to lead. I'm here to basically get us into a more proactive stance, both budgetarily wise as well as how we maintain and operate. Operations is the key. How we respond to our community, how we respond to your questions of us, how we respond to your concerns, how we respond to things that actually are problems where you are. All these things are important. Every citizen here is just as important as the next, regardless of any of your background. It's just we need to take care of everybody. We need to love our neighbors. We need to be there for each other. And as county commission, I'll be there for everyone. I love everything about this county, and my thing, Putnam Proud, what that stands for is I'm so proud to live here. Just like Travis was saying earlier, this community comes together in times of need. And I've seen people that needed help other people that needed just as much as I've seen people that have helped people that needed in this county. And that's part of the reason why my wife and I chose to stay here 3 years ago when we were looking for a home. We chose to make this our forever home. We plan to raise our kids here, retire here, and be here for the rest of our lives. And it's mostly because we're so proud of what we see here every day in our lives.
Okay. There you have it. I want to thank you, Paul, for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Travis.
And let me get through here, and then we'll close out. So if you'll just hang on for a minute. Like I say every night when I do my political shows, the reason I'm doing this tonight is because I'm always preaching, get to know your candidates. Don't vote your party, vote the candidates. Vote for the person that you think is going to represent you the best. And you notice I didn't say what affiliation he was tonight because to me that doesn't matter. what matters to me is what his principles, and I have sat down and had a conversation with Paul before, and I like what he has to say on different issues. We will have other candidates coming in, but get to know the people that are running. Don't vote for a politician. Vote for the person that you think is going to serve your interest and we, the people, the best. And with that being said, I want to thank all of and for Veterans Day this past week, I said it last night, I'm going to say it again tonight. Thank you to all of our veterans who have served our country, who are still fighting for our country, who have fought and died for our country. Thank you so much. We love you. If you see a veteran while you're out on the streets, walk up and tell him thank you. Thank you for your service, like I did with Paul tonight. You know, I thanked him for his service. Those weren't just words. I actually mean that. I love my freedom. I love this right here, which is our Constitution of the United States. I live by this. I preach it. And I know Paul does the same. I talked to him about it. He loves the Constitution. He believes in the Second Amendment to your right to carry guns. He believes in freedom of speech, freedom of press, the whole 9 yards. And when you see a cop out, and I say this every night on my political shows, don't teach your kids by saying, you know, if you mess up or screw up, I'm going to go over there and have that cop arrest you. Don't instill the fear into them. Walk over, have them talk to the police. Have them walk over to a fire truck. Have them talk to them. All of them will flip on their sirens. They'll flash their lights. So they'll show these kids they are human just like we are. Yes, there may be one or two bad ones in the United States. The majority of the police officers are great people. The same with our fire departments, especially our volunteers. They go out, they do things that nobody else would do, and they save our sorry butts when we're in trouble. I want to give a shout-out real quick to Tammy, my partner in crime over at the Putnam Way. If you want to catch the latest in news, and some great news and even funny stuff that she puts up from time to time, or all the time, go over and thank Tammy for putting it up. Tammy lives over in Tampa. She's my partner in crime. I've known her since we were in middle school. We always talked about doing this stuff, and here we are. We don't get paid for this. We don't make anything. Anything that comes in advertising goes right back out. So, and also I want to say hi to Annette and Audrey up in Louisiana, Mr. Steve, Mr. Steve's wife, Jimmy up there. Let's see, Cindy Shaw out there. To all of our county commissioners, I'll give a shout out again. I was not here to bash you tonight. The only comments I read are from your constituents, which I will not sugarcoat anything. How your people feel about you is how they feel. If they don't feel you're doing your job right, there's two things they can do. They can get a hold of you, or three things. They can whine and bitch, or they can come to the county commission meetings. But the one thing you need to do is listen to your people and what they're saying. It's we the people, not them the politicians. So with that being said, I'm going to get out of here. We had Paul in here tonight. If you like what Paul has to say, and we're going to have him back on here quite a few times because there's way too many questions to answer, and the numbers are still going up. But tonight we had Take It to the Breakdown that we opened up with, and that was Stars in Toledo. And tonight, Kurt Formeyer, Struggling with My Demons, closes out the show. Remember to keep your business local. Look at the advertising that scrolls across the screen during the shows, and keep your business local. That's what's going to make our county be great again. That's what's going to bring us back, and that's not a Donald Trump thing. We need to keep our county and get it back to where it used to be back in the old days when people got out, met each other, talked to each other, knew each other, ran the drug addicts out of the county, and bring back in local business. The only way that's going to happen and keep our businesses here is to shop local. If you can find it here, don't go buy it on Amazon and wait 2 days. Spend the extra $2 or $3 to keep these businesses alive. All right, I got to get out of here. We love you. We'll see you back here. What's tonight, Wednesday? Yes. Friday night with What's Pissing Me Off. I'm out.
I'd been that good guy way too long, followed every rule, holding back instead of acting like a full-grown fool. When bad intentions came to call, I firmly stood my ground, till one day I said, screw it all, and I turned my life around. Yeah, I told my better angels they could go piss up a rope, not come back unless they brought a sack of killer dope. I'm smoking packs of cigarettes and drinking quarts of beer, snuggling with my demons, and I kinda like becomes my comfort food. And from time to time I take a pill to elevate my mood. I'm coveting my neighbor's ass and things that I can't have. I bathe myself in misery like it's medicated salve. Since I told my better angels they could go piss up a road, not come back unless they brought a sack of killer dope. I'm smoking packs of cigarettes and drinking quarts of beer, snuggling with my demons, and I kinda like it here. As long as I got gas to burn, I won't hit the brakes, 'cause I've still got a lot to learn from my own mistakes. I told my better angels they could go piss up a road, not come back unless they brought a sack of killer dope. I'm smoking packs of cigarettes and drinking quarts of beer, snuggling with my demons, and I kinda like it here. Yeah, I'm snuggling with my demons.